Hello once again, this is Dr. Jonathan Ellerby with another 12 at 12, and today we are going to be exploring endurance. How do we endure the unendurable, the intolerable? How do we endure uncertainty and fear and pain? Many of us are confronted right now in this moment, Friday, April 17th, with a lot to endure. In some parts of the world, often parts that we don't hear about as much in the United States, still Italy, still Spain, parts of Africa now, South America, other parts of Europe, Asia, the Middle East even, there are places where people are literally enduring tremendous hardship, loss, physical loss, family loss, but have no end in sight and are with less resources to face these things than many of us. And then on the other hand, there are those of us who are seeing no illness around us, and yet we are taken from our ordinary routines, and so we are alone, or we're without work, or we're without our purpose, or these kinds of things. So whether we are confronted with the most brutal realities of this pandemic or the more passive realities of the pandemic, many of us are entering into a phase now, weeks or even over a month into this, that we are starting to question, how are we going to endure? So we're going to go deeper into that in a moment, but I do want to take a second to slow down, to settle down, to offer a reading, and to remind you to check out what I have going on online, in particular on jonathanellerby.com. You'll see that there's a lot of cool stuff coming up. Right now we're offering a special program package. It's a 90-day program with 20 sessions. Admittedly, we are looking into possibly shortening that. It seems that so many people are flooded with so many programs and online learning, even though we were planning this long before COVID, that maybe that's not quite the format people are going to want. So we're open to consider that. But there's a lot of other stuff that you can use at your own discretion and with your own timing, such as my new book, which I'm happy to give you for free, on spiritual experience, an audio collection, and a bunch of other stuff. So at any rate, you get the idea. There's lots of good stuff. If you have questions, you can easily email me through my website. It's connect@jonathanellerby.com. And yes, actually, people have been asking me if they can make donations, and I haven't quite figured out how to do that, or if I feel comfortable promoting that often, but I am on Venmo, and I would certainly not say no to a gift. Would you? Having said all that, we also have lots of great stuff going on the Althea Center Denver Facebook page, such as today. It's too late to sign up, but today we're doing a 90-minute class on the dark night of the soul. Sunday we will have a wonderful gathering at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, and then we have Earth Day coming up. So that's the promotional side of all this. Let's get into the material. Sitting comfortably but alert, I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath and let your eyes close. The first breath out can just be kind of a sigh, like a sigh of relief. And then breathing softly. Let your breath be soft, concentrating on an extended exhale, and then feel your body soften, the muscles in your face relax, your shoulders drop. Paying attention to stillness and silence. Remembering that this still point within you is the place where spirit lives. The spirit of all things, the spirit of life. There is something in you that is greater than anything that has ever been done to you, said to you, taken from you. And so we commit to connect to that place again and again and again. Hundreds of years ago, the great mystic and poet Hafiz wrote, "When the words stop and you can endure the silence that reveals your heart's pain of emptiness or that great wretched sweet longing, that is the time to try and listen to what the beloved's eyes most want to say." So the topic of endurance, is a critical one for us as we face this very strange and complicated time together. In some ways, what we're facing is no different than ordinary life. It's exaggerated. And so it feels unfamiliar. We all live with illusions that keep us comfortable. We have the illusion that we will always have our work, or we will always have our income. We have the illusion that we have control over how often we go out, and when, and with who. We have all kinds of illusions in our daily life that, if they are uninterrupted, we continue to believe in. So we're starting off to say that which we might feel is unendurable or intolerable is actually only the recognition or realization of the true conditions of things every day. We all feel that we're entitled to health until it's taken. We all feel we're entitled to security until it's taken. We all feel that tomorrow we will have the same purpose and routine and people in our lives as just a day before, until it's all taken. And at some point in life, we all experience that. We have accidents, job loss, family members fall ill. What makes this moment unique is that all those ordinary conditions are co-occurring quickly. We're all experiencing uncertainty. We're all experiencing some measure of economic instability. We're all experiencing some lack of clarity about health and safety. And whether we are facing the brutal and direct costs of this pandemic, loss of family, loss of income, or whether it's a more passive experience, boredom, isolation, uncertainty about what's next, millions upon millions of people are faced with questions about what they are capable of enduring, and when this will end, and if it will end. When will we get to go back to normal, and the uneasiness that arises as we realize we may not have normal as it was again. When we face times that feel intolerable, the first thing we can work with is perspective. So perspective relates very much to some other talks I've done, talking about whether we're looking at details, the pain of the moment, or whether we're able to move back into really broad perspectives and recognize that what feels intense right now, one day will be just a story. That kind of playing with where you sit. And what helps that is any kind of spiritual practice that slows you down, brings you closer to stillness and silence, and allows you to simply reflect on the vastness of our cosmos. It's a funny thing to recommend, but if you're online watching a lot of streaming videos, there are a lot of natural history programs on, I guess, Amazon Prime and Netflix and whatever else you watch. We have the Disney Plus thing now, and they have National Geographic. But if you take time to watch shows like, I think it's called One Big Rock, or One Giant Rock, or something like that. It's a very neat show on Netflix that's hosted by Will Smith. Just look up the word rock. And what it does is, episode by episode, it looks at major phenomena on our planet. Water, fire, human consciousness, evolution. My point is that if you want to work with the idea of perspective, spiritual practices that slow you down and let you consciously choose to contemplate history, time, and space will help you have a vast perspective in which the present moment becomes smaller. But you can also do things more outwardly with what you watch and what you read. One Strange Rock, that's what it's called. And help yourself to be in more of that global perspective, more of that vast universal perspective. They say that planet Earth is over 4 billion years old. So even if we face a pandemic that lasts a year, in the scope of our planet, even in the scope of our species, this is like the blink. But our minds in the modern world have become so accustomed to fast information, fast experiences, quick results, it's very difficult to imagine the patience that it requires to endure these long cycles of change. And yet it was only a couple of 100 years ago, even less, that if you wanted to cross this United States where I am right now, at best you were on a train, maybe you were on a horse or in a wagon train. And to get from one side to the other, that alone could take months. And people would die along the way. If you wanted to cross the ocean, that could take weeks and months. Imagine more than a couple of 100 years ago, if you had a loved one whose life was connected to commerce, the ocean, exploration, merchants, you might not see them for half a year. And that was considered a reasonable time frame. So the first principle when we're dealing with endurance is perspective. If you're having a hard moment with what's going on, find a way to connect yourself to a bigger perspective. And as I say, there are some other videos that I've done on this topic. The next thing is to recognize that sometimes a little distraction and denial goes a long way. When dealing with people facing acute trauma or loss, or for that matter, even just the death of a loved one, it's important in the therapeutic community that you recognize that sometimes people just need a little time to be in denial, to disconnect from the intensity of what's going on, so that at a subconscious, psychological, emotional, spiritual level, they can kind of get themselves reorganized again. We don't want to live in denial. We don't want to live in distraction, but we absolutely want to embrace the fact that sometimes it's okay, especially if you're taking this time of pandemic consciously, sometimes it's okay to give yourself a day off, a couple of days off. Now, yesterday I led a virtual retreat with a group of people where we were in solitude and reflection, but you can do other kinds of fasting. You can fast from the news for a day or two. You can fast from the people that are constantly focused on gossip and fear. You can fast from things that are aggravating your sense of insecurity, and give yourself permission just to have a couple of days vacation. And that means watching what's fun, doing what's fun, being more playful, reinvigorating the things like dance and distraction, and whatever helps you just to kind of get through this cycle, because very often our sense of tolerance and our ability to endure is not just psycho-emotional, but it's also physical, which means based on the weather, based on the seasons, based on your sleep, based on what you're eating, you're just going to have some weeks, some days, some hours that just aren't going to feel as resilient and energized, and that's fine. Be patient with that. So the first thing was perspective. The second thing was give yourself permission for distraction. Take a vacation from the things that aggravate, focusing on the future, and just let yourself be a little bit narrow-minded or narrow-sighted for a while. The third thing that I want to mention, and then we're going to wrap up, is Work with your body. Your body is very much in your present moment. The body doesn't really understand the conversation or thinking around endurance because the body is not in the future. The body is in the present. So when you're having a moment of feeling unsure about how you're going to get through, give your mind a break. Life doesn't need to be built upon the mind. Time doesn't need to be filled with activities of the mind. Reinvigorate what you're doing with your body. Pay attention to what makes you healthy, physically engaged. That means give yourself better sleep, healthier food, and exercise. Now, you might be trapped in an apartment, but that could mean going up and down on steps. That could mean watching one of the 10,000 free videos on YouTube about how to exercise at home. You can do Zumba, you can do chair yoga, but I'm going to encourage you, if you're struggling with endurance in relationship to the future, bring yourself radically into the present where the future concerns don't work. Just get through this day. Focus on physical fitness, and you will find that that supports your mental and emotional health, because being cooped up sometimes robs us of fresh air and mobility. So find some way to get moving, and you will find that that helps you to face that which you cannot endure. And of course, finally and last of all, the fourth of our principles today, and then we're certainly over time, mindfulness. Bring your attention, bring your effort, bring your energy into present moment practice. And that means be slow with your food and notice the color, the texture, the way the sun coming through the window shines on the oil of your salad. Notice the way the coffee, the dark color contrasts the cup that it's in. Smell things before you engage them. So the fourth principle I want to leave you with, aside from perspective, giving yourself a break, a little denial, exercise, is to really engage the senses through the mindful embrace of the moment. Pay more attention to sound, taste, texture, smell. Pay less attention to thinking, studying, learning, anticipating, watching news, figuring out the future. Just give yourself a window of time to be with your senses and discover the way you will find a universe within your senses alone. So we're at about 14-15 minutes here, so we're going to wrap up. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that so many of you are doing this with me and sharing it after. I know a lot of us aren't doing it live, but I'm grateful that you watch this, and I hope that it's helpful. What I'd like to do is finish with a couple of Hafiz poems. I want to read the one that I read already, and then I want to read you another one, a little more inspiring. So if you like, you can close your eyes and take a breath. When the words stop and you can endure the silence that reveals your heart's pain of emptiness, or that great, wrenching, sweet longing, that is the time to try to listen to what the beloved's eyes most want to say. And Hafiz also writes of what starts to come through when we come into this moment through our senses and let this moment be enough. And this is called the union. This union you want with the earth and sky. This union we all need with love. A golden wing from God's heart just touched the ground. Now step upon it with your brave son vows and help our eyes to dance. Well, you have my love, and I know we can do this. We can do this together. And if you need anything, of course, you can send a comment. I'll be happy to answer, or email me personally. I am here for you, actually, and I know that amazing things can come through this difficult time we can endure, we can learn, and we can experience the beauty that is ever present around us, even in the most painful or confusing moments. So, lots of love, and we'll catch you later.